Welcome to the Pint of You, the podcast where I highlight Black-owned businesses and entrepreneurs behind them. Today, I'm thrilled to introduce Kerry Adams, and the owner and CEO of Cardinal Construction Company. Kerry Adams Cardinal Construction Company is a proud Black-owned company setting the standard for excellence in the industry with a strong commitment to quality, innovation, and community impact. Cardinal Construction is building more than just structures. They're creating opportunities and leaving a lasting legacy. Their dedication to craftsmanship and integrity makes Cardinal Construction a trusted name in the business. So I'll be diving into his legacy, entrepreneurship, and what he's been through. And so you can grab a pint and enjoy the show. Thank you for giving us opportunity, Kerry.
Hey, thanks for having me, man. It's an honor. Thanks. Yeah.
Me and Kerry we both grew up in East Chicago. We're good friends since high school and junior high. And I'm just glad he's given the opportunity to highlight on another proud Black-owned business. And then I'll let Kerry dive more into his business. Kerry, can you go ahead and give me a little bit of why and how you started Cardinal Construction?
Yeah, a little bit it's a long history before a little bit even gets there, but, success is overnight, but it's built day by day, So I'd say that, being in an industry that is of construction, especially at the level I was in, I worked for a bunch of companies that was registered on the ENR, 500, done very well as it relates to, as far as corporate, built a lot of different buildings and stuff. And a lot of times I was the only minority in the office. And I got good at what I did, for almost 20 years. It's a lot that goes into that from that standpoint, from internships all the way up to, managing large projects and stuff. There's one particular project I was on, one of the largest projects probably of a lot of people's careers and stuff, but most definitely one of the largest of mine. It was a $50 million battery processing plant.
That's a lot of money.
Yeah, it is. It's 500,000 square foot. It was a big project. So I wasn't the head person over that one, but I was a part of the leadership team. And my job was to find minority contractors because there was a minority set aside for that particular project because it was funded by the state. It was, this is a huge project for the city that it was being built in and everything. So the thing that disturbed me the most was sitting there trying to find these contractors and stuff. And a lot of times it was just my boss coming in and say, "Hey, Kerry, sign this company up, get the price negotiated, and here you go." And I'm looking at it, I'm like, hey, this is a white-owned company, or non-minority-owned company, but they had a prime, or not a prime, but like a joint venture with a minority-owned company. And I'm sitting there thinking, how are we doing this? And so I found out later on, it can be a concrete job, and they may have like a flooring contractor, partnering up with this concrete contractor just to kind of get them to do what they need to do as far as the concrete side of things. So it just wasn't making sense to me. And then the ones that I did find that was purely minority, they were like, they was talking about just, hey, how do I get paid? How can I get this money? And all this other stuff. So being in that situation, and a person in the office that's the only minority there, sitting in these meetings and hearing, people talk bad about my culture, it was like, I couldn't defend it because it was all true. It wasn't like they was bad mouthing. It was just like, hey, we can't find anybody and stuff. And I said, if I ever start a business, I'm going to make sure it's done right. Little did I know at that point in time that seed was planted in me to go out and start my own construction company. I always thought that I would do something, as far as owning a business, but never thought a construction company. I wanted to stay clear away from it because a lot of politics once you get into owning a construction company. It's a lot of, shaking hands. It's a lot of that goes on, and I just didn't want to deal with it. But here we are. Some time later, after that thought came into my head, and hey, I'm an owner of a construction company, and very happy at doing it, and very good at doing it, and won't even look back at doing anything else.
And I'm glad that you highlighted that because usually some people dive into it for money. Some people dive into it because that's what they've been doing. It's in their family. Like they may have uncle or auntie or something and then the business has been handed down to them. But you come from an aspect of where your foot's already in the door, but you are seeing it from an African American point of lens of not only how can you make this better, but you don't see a lot of us in it.
Right.
And so my follow-up question to that is, because some people still work their 9 to 5. Were you working and building this, or did you just,
Oh man.
did you just,
So
did you just like, I'm gonna go hands in? You had money saved up. I'm gonna put
right.
into like that lovely logo you got in the back. That takes
Yeah.
money in itself. But did you
Right.
just
Right.
did you say, you know what? I got money saved up. I'm gonna quit this 9 to 5 and start this, or were you working your 9 to 5 and still doing this at the same time?
Right, right. So, hey, that's a good simple question to answer for somebody who's like, like, yeah, this is what I did. Again, it's a little bit of history there. So, Cardinal Construction is not my first company I started.
Okay,
My
dive
first
into
company,
it.
yeah. So my first company I started was called ARA. Consultant, and that was comprised of myself, an uncle of mine, and then a cousin of mine. And our sole goal was to do government contracting. My cousin, who's passed on now, he was like, "Man, Kerry, you got to do this government contracting. We know you smart enough, you can do it." And he's an older guy too. He was, I want to say he's about 15, 20 years older than me, and he just kept pushing me and stuff like, "Kerry, you can do this." And stuff. So we decided, hey, you know what? If I'm gonna do this, I need some help because I ain't know nothing about running a business or anything like that. And again, this was probably about maybe 5 years later after I had that thought of saying, hey, if I'm gonna start a company, I'm gonna do it right. Uh, so we started that company. I'm supposed to have been running it, as far as just, hey, be the CEO of it. And they was just gonna be my backing for it and stuff, like more like silent partners. And so I did the whole thing with, hey, working, funding that. They was helping me fund it. And then it got to a point to where I had to be in meetings when I needed to be at work. I had to be my cousin, he owned 2 daycare centers in New York. And so he was working on some projects. I had to be in New York on certain days. Mind you, I'm living in Philadelphia at the time. So I'm driving catching a train from Philadelphia to New York to go, to kind of help with these projects off the feet. So again, I tried to work and do the business, but the business was like, hey, look, I need you, And at that time, this is like a little side note, being in business and stuff like that, you think of the glitz and glamour of it and everything. And I'm saying, okay, I'm a business owner. I got to get out here and do it. And I had some arrogance. I had some pride. I had a lot of other things that, that comes along with being a young man trying to, sit here and say, I'm a business owner. And so with all that being said, I quit my job. I had some money saved up. I didn't have a contract, mind you. I ain't had nothing to lean on. I had a little money saved up. My wife was still working. And so I quit my job. I was like, okay, cool. Hey, got these contracts from New York. They're going to be coming through. I had some funding opportunities I was working on with the local municipality I was living in at the time and stuff. And just say I quit my job on a Friday, Monday was like Bloody Monday or something. Like it was like the Monday after the season ends in any sport. It was crazy. It was like the funding. Like I had a scheduled appointment to meet just to sign paperwork on a Thursday. The Monday before, I got a phone call on Monday and said, hey, you know what, Kerry, we got to cancel that appointment because we looked at the application. Everything looks good, but so that funding didn't come through. And then the 2 projects my cousin was working on with his daycares, because he was expanding his daycare centers, like those just started to crumble right before my eyes. And like little petty stuff, like he had, like my cousin had like $170,000 dropped into this one project, is just in design, and he couldn't come to terms with the landlord over some stairs that was out of code. And he was like, the stairs are not mine. The stairs are part of your building. So that project, fell off by the wayside. And then there was another project he was trying to come to terms with, where they was trying to charge him like as trying to charge him on a 1,000-square-foot building, a home association fee, because it was a part of a co-op. And he was like, you trying to charge me $150 a square foot, a home association fee on 40,000 square foot? You crazy? He said that's more than what the lease space is. So that project fell by the wayside. So here I am, blew through my savings, had a lot of different things going from there, and I got humbled. I didn't have to humble myself. I got humbled and went back to work. And it was devastating to my family and everything. And then so I'm working. My wife was like, "Hey, what are you gonna do?" I said, "Hey, I'm gonna just work, and that's it. So I have a job." I said, "I can't promise you what the future may hold, but hey, I'm just conceding to this business thing because I really got my hat handed to me. Like I didn't want no more parts of it. It was like it was like being a fight with Tyson and Buster Douglas and Evander Holyfield at the same time. I was like, no." Wow. But went back to work and stuff. But 3 years later, working for this guy, hated it. And I remember talking to my dad. Now, by this time, 3 years go past. I done worked for 3 different companies, and I was talking to my dad and stuff. And at that point in time, I really didn't share anything with him personal like that because I didn't really have a good relationship with him, and stuff like that. At that point in time, we was working on it, and he was like, "Well, son, hey, if you think you know more than the person whose name on the building, it's time for you to put a name on the building." And that was in 2016.
That's deep right there. That's deep.
Yeah,
right
it
there.
was. It was. It made me think. It made me really think. Some of the best advice I've ever received too was that right there. And I mean, he gives me great advice, always have. But again, just me not opening up at that point in time and dealing with my own stuff. I received that very well, and I've been successful from that. But again, back to the question: was I working and building the business? I was working. And I started the company, got all my paperwork, sitting there printing stuff off, making sure I'm printing to the right printer. You know how it is working in the office.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Trying to see, okay, where's everybody? Let me print this out real quick. Run to the printer, grab it off, come back, hide it, and stuff.
Oh, man. So you was dipping and dabbing while you were on the flock.
Yeah,
Okay.
exactly.
Okay.
And all the while, I'm sitting there running a $15 million school renovation project too, stuff. And so I got everything set up. And stuff in about maybe 6 months. Got all my paperwork, got everything set, got the business structure set up and everything. And then I started looking for places to consult. So I was like, hey, I got to get out of this job. And so my first option was, while I was working there, my review came up. I went to my boss. I was like, hey, look, mind you, when I got hired, I told him too that, hey, look, I want to have my own business one day. And so my review came up at that point in time. I said, hey, look, you know what? I told you I want to have my own business. So why don't we do this? Why don't you hire me as a consultant and pay me as a 1099 instead of a W-2? I still do exactly what I'm doing, but I want to limit my projects to what I'm working on for you to make sure I can do what I need to do for my family while I go out here and pursue other work. Anything I bring in this door, I want a percentage of it or whatever, right? And he leaned back in his chair. He's like, nah, we good. I don't like doing that type of stuff. I was like, okay. And that's why I left for that. And he said, okay. And so I'm steady looking, came across something on Indeed where somebody was looking for some consulting work down in the Atlanta area. And maybe 3 months after that, I was out. I quit my job. No, excuse me. No, I didn't. Let me back up. I did not quit my job. I started working on that about 3 months after that. I started working with this company out here in Atlanta. I was using vacation time to fly to Atlanta every 2 weeks, using my lunch breaks to go on meetings for almost about a year. And then it got too much, and I was like, hey, I'm done. I'm out. And then that's when I quit. Like I say, I like to add value wherever I go. That's when my boss was like, hey, wait, I can pay you this, and I can do this for you. And he offered me something good. He offered me, most people wouldn't walk away from, but I was like, nope, you had your opportunity. You know what I mean? And I walked away from it. And he got to the point, he's like, man, let me talk to your wife. I said, no, we good. You know what I mean?
Wow, he wanted to hit you with the talk to your wife and maybe she can put some soft in your ear.
Yeah, exactly. So, so with all that being said, so I was 20. The business started September 2016. 2017 August is when I walked out the door from the job. Never looked back, and that was 2017. 2018, relocated to Atlanta and been down here in Atlanta ever since, running the business. So again, it was a soft transition, but I just jumped head first. And mind you, I ain't had no money either. Saved up, got 3 kids, mortgage, wife, all this other stuff, normal everyday stuff. And we had a little bit of money in 401k that was like, hey, look, if I got to go back to work, I'll go back to work. But one thing that I recognized too during that point in time, Philadelphia is good to us. We love it. It was like that's like second home to me. That's like another Chicago where we lived at. Okay. And but things started to dry up. Like if I wanted to find a job, I couldn't find it. Like, and I went from being somebody that old people I work with to old companies will call me, email me, hey, what are you doing? I'm working at this new place now. Why don't you come join us? Like I said, I'm not going to say I was the best, but I did my job, period, point blank, and stuff. And the phone was dead. Nobody called, no emails, no nothing. So even if I wanted to go back to work, I couldn't. And so then I was like, hey, we got this thing working in Atlanta. Let's cut out. And we made that decision. And it happened so fast. It was like less than 6 months. We was living here in Atlanta after we made that decision.
Man,
yeah.
That's a lot. So
yeah, I was saying it's a lot. Yeah.
No, but I'm glad you highlighted that. But before I follow up with that, to keep with the brand of the show, I think it's a good time to take a quick pause. To keep the brand of the show, Pint of You, I asked Kerry what would he like, ice cream or alcohol? And my brother chose alcohol for the show. And nothing wrong with that because I like both of them. And so I'll be drinking Tom Bullocks burnt orange whiskey. And what will you be having, Kerry? You don't mind highlighting that?
I want to have my favorite whiskey, which is Uncle Nearest.
Okay.
This is a single barrel autograph bottle. I'm not drinking this. I'm not opening this up for a while.
Look at him showing off.
but this like right here, But this right here is some Uncle Nearest Green. It comes in the green label. Again, this is more like for the everyday sipping whiskey. The other stuff is more like special occasions and stuff like that. So I'll be drinking Uncle Nearest, which is my favorite.
I like that. And both of these are black-owned alcohol, and so that's lovely in itself. And we're going to take a shot to it.
I will say in recognition of Uncle Nearest, shout out to Fawn and Keith Weaver. They got an excellent spot down in Shelbyville, Tennessee. Y'all can check it out.
That's what's up. I'm going to give a shout out to Pint of You and Cardinal Construction.
All right.
That was good. That's my first time having that. Shots fired on that one.
Yeah.
So to highlight on everything that you talk about, the one word that sticks out that I've noticed out of all people that I've interviewed, the 3 interviews I've had before you, one of the words that stuck out was humble. And you said that, and I was like, wow, this is the 4th time I'm hearing that when it comes to starting your own business and doing something outside the box that you've never done before. Because anybody can start something new, but it takes a lot to humble yourself because you know you're going to hit some walls or run into some things that it can either go left or right, either go good or bad. And when you said that you humbled yourself because you ran into some situations to where you said when you first started out, you had your own company, you started out, and that didn't go as well, and you partnered with the people that you were working with, and then they ran into some trials and tribulations, and that takes a lot. Not only that, because it'd be different if it was just you, but it's not just you because you have a wife, you have kids, so it's not like you're just providing for yourself, you're providing for other people in the household. So that takes a toll on itself to do. So I'm glad you highlighted those stories because I think a lot of people, they fear that. And you feared that a little bit, but you knew in yourself and the confidence and just like you said, the advice that your father gave you, that if you feel you can do better than the person's name on the board or the logo, you should be doing your own thing.
Exactly. Yeah.
And
it's like why?
Go ahead.
I'll say it's not. It's like why stick around then? If that's what you feel like. It's like hey, time to get out the house then.
Why working for the man if you the man?
Exactly.
And that's another highlight I would like to bring to forefront is that you highlighted also the relationship with you and your father, which I think is also crucial. Not just in black men, but in man period, having that. And I feel like even if you don't have a father relationship, whether you have an uncle, someone in the community, a teacher, or a mentor, and so that's good that you highlight that relationship and you show how that advice you knew where you want to go, but that just put the icing on the cake.
Yeah, he did. Yeah.
Like he gave you you had the soup, but you didn't have the cape.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
So he gave you the cape, and now you I got the S on my chest. I got the cape.
Yeah,
I'm ready. I'm ready to move forward.
Exactly. And I say this. I'm sorry to interject. I just say
no,
this
go ahead.
To that note is that as my father's relationship and I have grown over the years. So I didn't grow up with him in the household or anything like that, but I understood. With him saying that, it was like maybe with you and your dad when growing up, I call your dad Uncle Duke still, but it's like Uncle Duke probably was like with you, hey, get out there, you know what I mean? Like pat you on the back, brush it off and get out there, and that's what that moment was for me and my father, in my 30s. So that right there is special to me in my heart from that standpoint.
That's excellent. And so with it being a construction company, there are tons of construction companies out there. Can you give me something, and not just for me, but for the viewers, of how Cardinal State Construction separates itself from others? I love the logo, but what else stands out from Cardinal Construction?
Well, I say this is that I learned this working for people, and this is one thing I say is that in whatever you do, no matter if you're doing it as a profession, turn it into a business, or whatever you're doing as a profession, and you say if you flipping burgers and you decide to go sell houses, whatever you pick up from your 9 to 5, try to use those same practices in your own business, because obviously this place is successful because they're paying you a check. Now you got to get to the level where you can pay yourself and pay somebody else. So I'm saying that to say is that one of the things I picked up on, amongst many who picked up on, that stood out, and I still carry it to this day in my own business, is that most people working, they're gonna do just the bare minimum. You know what I mean? They like if they can barely put a piece of paper between the expectation and their level of effort in doing it, that's what they're gonna do. And so we took a leadership training class at this one company, and the theme was of a segment, not the whole theme of the class, but it was like, we will deliver +1, or we are deliver +1, right? So they explained what that was. You got the expectation here. Most people will just come right underneath it or right there at it. But if you do that one more thing to meet or exceed that expectation, you will stand out above anybody else. So my company motto is that we will deliver +1. And that +1 can be anything. Like, it ain't even got to deal with the job. It can be something personal. Again, Dale Carnegie stuff, how to win friends and influence people, learn something personal about somebody, say their name a few times, all that stuff. I think most people from East Chicago got some great charisma and stuff like that. We know how to talk to people. We're very versatile people, when we come out into the world. That stuff, which is great. But, if you can get one thing extra out of somebody that you can always go back and lean on, man, you got friends for life.
That's dope. And I like that you highlighted that +1 in that aspect, but also you brought into the building of relationships with people. And because you might do something, you might have a job for a company or do a project, and it was so successful, and you brought that personal aspect to where the person felt like he grew up with you, or he or she grew up with you, and you keep that relationship, and then that person passes on, hey, I worked with Cardinal Construction. Like, well, okay, what's so great about them? And they tell them, like that you said, knowing them by their first name, may know something personal about them, may highlight that you guys like the same team or sport, but just building that foundation separates you guys. I like that, because I think sometimes when people, build projects or get into business with people, it's just about the money, and you shown like, yes, you're going to make money in the end regardless, but you want to make that person feel like they want to come back to you for something else.
Exactly.
They work with you with building this school or library, and like, okay, well, we're about to do some work in the subdivision. Why not work with the same people? Because not only they see the results, but there's some talking with you. I can see that even if you didn't have that +1 motto, I think it's in you, because not only are you a family man, but you were showing like how you were working your 9 to 5 and also still handling business at the same time.
Right.
So that takes a lot of hustle, takes a lot of it has to be in you.
Yeah, it does. Yeah,
it has to be in you. Like, someone can, like what they say, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make him drink it.
Right, exactly.
So
you gotta have that.
So I think that wanting success is in you, and so you're not going to put out something that you wouldn't be proud of. And I like that, because some people are like, okay, I did this and I made this amount of money, but were you proud of the work that you did?
Exactly.
Can you go to someone and show them like, hey, I did this, I did that, and they can just look at it without having all the details. They can look at it like, man, that's some quality work right there.
Yeah, exactly. And people, man, when you have pride about what you do, not prideful, but having pride in what you do, it takes things to a whole different level. You know what I mean? And one of the things that you can't do, you can't lie to yourself. That's the reason why that other business failed. I lied to myself. I lied to my wife. I lied to, I'm just being real. I'm calling a thing a thing. Because people can say, well, this happened and that happened, but if I would have took a different approach, I probably wouldn't have been in as bad a situation as I was when that happened. You know what I mean? I probably would have waited a little bit longer before I quit. Whatever. But it happened, and it needed to happen. Don't get me wrong. It was a huge lesson that I learned, that I paid for and stuff and everything. But with that, when it came back around the second time, it was, it was like, God, I know what to do with it now, And again, while I'm working for somebody and a consultant, it was a lot of nights I ain't getting no sleep because we had babies in the house, and if you got kids, you ain't sleeping. I got 3 kids. I ain't sleep for my 30s. I ain't sleep at all. And so, but again, I was working, my 9 to 5. I was coming in working on the stuff for the consulting company, and then once I quit the job and stuff, my wife was still going to work while I was working at the house for the consulting company. And then when she come home, I have dinner ready. And then I was going out Uber, every night, and stuff, just trying to make sure that I was producing,
To make
But
ends meet.
exactly. What Drake said, you wasn't with me when I was shooting in the gym, and that's what that is, like you putting them shots up, and so with all that being said, you gotta have that in you, because if you don't, it ain't gonna happen. It's not gonna happen for you. And you can't focus on the money. You know what I mean? It's again, it's an ugly process.
I liked what you said, because what you said about you working at Uber, that goes back into the interview I had before you.
Yeah.
And John Thomas Barbecue Sauce, he said he was working his job, but then also working a second job where he was overqualified for that job.
Yeah, I heard that. He was like sweeping floors and stuff. I was like, hey, that's...
Yeah. So I think that, and that goes back into that H word where I highlighted the humble. Like you have to humble yourself, and you have to see or have an end result of what your goal is. Kind of like a tunnel vision. Like everything else you kind of block out because the end goal behind that.
Yeah,
exactly. That's hard to do. I commend you for that, because I think that also scares people from starting their business, because they don't know if they want to can I work my 9 to 5, and they think, well, I can just quit my 9 to 5, I save some money, and they start their business, and then, but you had like, okay, I'm gonna work my 9 to 5, and then I'm also do this side hustle, because this is gonna add value to that, and I can put money over here, and then some money I can just throw into the business. So I think you highlighted, without even saying it, you got to have a plan, because you can't just go into it like, I think this is going to happen, or I think this is going to happen. You got to have a kind of A, B, C mentality. I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. So can you highlight of how you went about that? Because I think that would be more value for me, and also for the people that's listening, of the process of you kind of thinking like, okay, I'm going to do this 9 to 5. So can you highlight a little bit more detail on that, of how you went about that?
Well, first and foremost is prayer. You know what I mean? That's number one. You know what I mean?
Hey.
You can't do it without it. You know
okay. I love it. I'm
finna, you know what I mean? I'm finna tell you right now, if it wasn't for the Holy Spirit in my life, none of this would be possible. I can't take credit for none of it. Number one, and stuff. With that being said, is that there's a verse. And
wait, I want to give a clap to that.
Oh, okay.
Faith. I want to give a clap to that one.
Yeah. Number one is that there's a verse, and I tell my kids this, is that God will give you the desires of your heart, right? Most people, and the way I've heard it preached, is that most people will take that as that, hey, God will give you the desires of your heart. All right, Lord, I want a car, I want a house, or whatever. That's great. That is part of it. But he also put that desire in your heart. You get what I'm saying? So you got to understand, you just ain't thinking this stuff up. You know what I mean? You ain't just sitting there saying, hey, I want to go ahead and start a business, or hey, this is the strategy I want to use. No, that came from somewhere. That came from the Lord, So with that being said, is that, all right, Lord, what do you want me to do with this? And how do you want me to strategize for this? This is just, Cardinal State is not mine. I'm just the person who here. That's the Lord's. You know what I mean? And so that's one thing that I will say, is that, how do you want me to manage this? You know what I mean? And I can't mess it up. You know what I mean? I make mistakes and stuff like that. This is one thing I teach in my household. Everybody wants perfection, but nobody's perfect, right? So that's what grace and mercy and everything else comes into play at. With that being said, is that, how did I do it? I got the strategy just from prayer, and then from that strategy, it's like, all right, how do I implement? And this is something I had to work on, and this is something I've been in business, be 9 years this year. This is something that I'm just learned. I just learned 2025, and I'm putting it to practice. I told my wife, I don't want to come to the end of myself. If I'm operating in the Lord's strength, it's not going to be, well, Kerry ends here and then the Lord's going to pick up here. It's going to be, no, we're going to seamlessly walk this thing together, in order to make this work. So because again, it's the strategy that I get from, just from praying and just thinking about what needs to happen. And that's how it worked out. All right, do I do this? Do I do the Uber? Do I do, all of that stuff just I can't take no credit for it. I didn't go to school for business. I didn't go to school. I went to school for construction. I can build a building. I can sit here and talk in my sleep about how to build a building or whatever, but I can't tell you anything about business. But again, that strategy and how this thing works and who God has put in my life to get me along the way to where I'm at now, all of that came from the Lord.
That's powerful right there.
Yeah.
I knew it had something to do with it, but I didn't want to assume.
Yeah.
And I'm glad that you highlighted that you showed you wanted to start a business, but your faith really took it to the next level and helped you see this through, whether it was the pit holes that you faced, and that just shows not only that you have to have some type of, and that's what I ask people that start their business, like, what is it that gets you up every day? What is it that gives you that juice to keep you going? And you show, hey, it's my faith.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
I'm not just reading some of the books that we highlighted offline. You're not just reading those, but it's your faith that kind of keeps grounded.
Yeah.
And I like that, because everything that you show me shows you that you not only that you are a good man, a good father, and I always highlight this in my other interviews, and I want to highlight it here because you said you have a wife and then you also have kids, and your kids see that in you.
Mm-hmm.
So whether they want to pursue that as their career or whether they want to go to college or do something, they see father out here doing this. They see father out here working, providing for the family, and then coming home, spending time with us, seeing how our day went, putting value into that. And they see that takes not only commitment, but also faith. And you highlighted all that, and I'm glad you showed that, like, that it takes, you have to have something that keeps you grounded and keeps you moving forward, and that makes you not only want to get up today, but kind of just pursue for the long run. And now that your kids are seeing that, that's that whole legacy.
Exactly.
Like you may not sit down with them every day and do this, but they see it in action, and they see it, and they're like, that role model and the mentorship, and they see it in action. And that's beautiful. I just want to highlight that. I just want to highlight that. It's good, because some people, even if you are single and you're starting out a business and you don't have people that are looking up to you, you have to have something grounded. And you highlighted just more than that. You have something grounded, you have faith, but you also are a leader in what you do and a leader in your household. And I think that's just wonderful in itself.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
Yeah, and that's and like you say, that goes back to also into how we talked about earlier, how it has to be in you. Like you can read this, watch that, but if it's not in you, you won't see the results.
Right, exactly. Yeah, exactly. And I'm pretty sure you heard this before. I know you have, because I when you called me on this, I told you I want to do my research and stuff like that, because I want to, pay respect to you as being, again, a brother to me, you know what I mean? Because we go way back, man.
Yes, we do.
Mini ball,
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I remember seeing you for the first time. It was like, you walking like, this dude ain't no doggone 10 years old, man. Grown man. But I want to pay respect not only to that, but also to your platform and stuff like that. With all that being said, is that let me make sure I get my point here. I'm pretty sure you heard this, and like I said, I know I have, just because I heard everything else that other people highlighted on, is that when you step out and you decide to start a business, it's not pretty, like, I don't know the other two, but hey, Cuts is another brother of mine. You know what I mean? Like, me and Cuts go back too, but 30 years now. But, so I seen where he came from and what he went through and where he's at now. Proud of him. And hearing the other stories and stuff like that, you have to understand that it ain't pretty. You know what I mean? Like, we may have a nice car, or we may, a nice shirt, or whatever the case may be, but hey, this ain't no 9 to 5. You know what I mean? Like, it's totally different. You know what I mean? Like, there's a lot of security in that dog on W-2 on Friday. I'm telling you that right now. But the thing about it is that I just realized this, is that my youngest daughter, she's 9. She don't know nothing else but business. And the joke that I call it my joke. Everybody else don't think it's funny, but I think it's hilarious.
Okay.
Like my daughter is a true free person. You know what I mean? We homeschool, so she don't know no boundaries when it comes to school. She don't know nothing about mommy and daddy getting up at 6 and going to work and coming home at 5 and only spending 2 hours a day. She don't know nothing about that. Only thing she knows is business. She made me get her some business cards, so she got little business cards or whatever with the logo and everything on it. So people ask her what she want to do when she grow up. She said, "I'm gonna run the business." You know what I mean? And she's 9 years old. And she got that fire in her. Like, hey, I ain't got no boundaries. And again, and because she done seen the ugliness of it, and she's seen the other side of it. All of them have. And I ask them from time to time. I said, hey, do you want me to do this or you want me to do this? Oh, we want to do this. Or they start saying, we want to go back to school. I said, well, if you go back to school, we can't go do this on a Wednesday. You know what I mean? And they're like, oh, yeah, you're right about that, Dad. We can't go do that on a Wednesday. You know what I mean? So, because, again, they like their freedom. They can't sleep till 8 o'clock. They got to get up, It's just that, that's legacy building all in itself. And my goal, I heard Don Peebles say this on another podcast. I think it was Earn Your Leisure or something like that. Shout out to them, too. But he said that they asked him, like, how do you keep your kids engaged in your companies and your business and stuff? And he said, well, you got to find out what fuels them and then pour fire on that, pour gasoline on that, you know what I mean? And so that's what I'm looking for in each of my kids, to say, okay, what are their interests? Their interests may not be Cardinal State. Their interests may not be construction at all, but I want to make sure that whatever they decide to do with their life, that we give them the opportunities to do whatever they want to do. Like I'm going to do a shameless plug here. My oldest daughter right now, she's writing a book,
Okay.
for a class. It's homeschooling, so she's gonna be a published author. So I'll be putting that out too somewhere whenever that's done. But again, that's an opportunity. Most kids 14 don't get an opportunity to write a book unless that's something that's in them. You know what I mean? So those are some things that I look for in legacy. Is, again, none of this got to do with no money. It all has to do with developing their character, developing who they are as a person, making sure they love the Lord, and making sure they're a productive citizen in the society. And I tell them all the time, the goal is not to graduate at 17, graduate from college at 21, 22, whatever it is, and then go out and work until you're 65. No, the goal is to, hey, if I can teach you how to make money by 17, we ain't going to college. You can be out there making money. Go do your thing. You know what I mean? Now, if you decide to go to college after that, go ahead. I'm cool. But you just know you got options. Like that's legacy to me, is making sure my family has options.
And that's dope. I think you also highlighted that you are trying to find out what they love or what their passion is, because I don't know about you, but just in growing up and in people who I've engaged with, like you say, we were told, like, hey, you go to high school, you go to college, or you go to the military.
Get a job,
You get a job. And
you can be on the streets.
Yeah. You get a house, you get a family, you may have kids, and that's a life. But you are coming with the approach. Yes, that is the end goal. But what you shown, like, you can do both. You can be successful in life and make money, but also have a passion behind it. Mm-hmm. And I think some people, we kind of close the door on what we're passionate about because we're more focused on how we gonna make that money.
Yeah,
but you shown how you can have a passion for something and also become successful with it, but also doing the research or finding out how to get there, and you are highlighting your kids, hey, what do you love or what do you like, and putting that in them. Not only that, are you putting that in them, they see it every day in you and your wife and how you engage. I'm glad you really highlighted those points. That's dope. That's dope.
And one thing you just said too that I want to just bring to the forefront again. I heard it said. I heard it outside, but also heard it in all your others as well. And this is something that I had to learn, not just in business, but even your career. Number one, you have to be content with where you are. It may not be where you want to be, but you have to be content where you are. Like your state is not your stance. That's something that our pastor talked about one time. Just because your state, the state of where you are is not where you want to be, your stance can be wherever you want it to be at. And you have to grow to that, right? So just because you're working at a job, that doesn't mean that, hey, I'm not getting a promotion, I'm not getting this, I'm not getting that. It's cool to work a job. Hey, I'm gonna be looking for some employees. You know what I mean? If they want to be a business owner, I help them. But if they want to remain an employee, I'm gonna try my best to fuel their aspirations. And you have to take control of that for yourself. And that's one thing I did when I was working. I kept getting passed over for promotions and different projects and stuff like that. I was like, I'm out. They was like, why you leaving? I said, I've been asking for a promotion for 2 years. You ain't gave it to me, you know? And it's not that I haven't proven I can do the work. I said, because people coming in behind me that has less time than me, they moving up. I'm not moving up. But again, I'm the only minority in the office too. You know what I mean? I don't know, but I'm just, you know, the writing was on the wall for me. So I said, hey, it's time for me to move on. So with that being said, you know, my state was, they had me here, but my stance was, hey, I want to do better. And again, I chase money, back to the point about chasing money. I chase money working for people, but then I realized, like, this ain't what I want to do. Because when you working for somebody and you out there chasing that check, they know that, and then they can put you over a barrel. You know what I mean? Because now you got the big car, you got the house, you got this, and everybody cheering you on when you come into work. You got that new car you pulled up in, and everybody cheering you on. You say, my wife and I just closed on a house, or we got more babies coming in and stuff like that. You know what your boss thinking? He ain't going nowhere. You know what I mean? I got him. You know what I mean? And that's how I was thinking, like, man, I don't ever want to be like that. When I was working for people, man, like even to this day, like especially when I was working for people, we never had a car note. I went out, gas was like $4 a gallon at one point in time, and I went out, I bought a 97 Toyota Camry, you know, and stuff. That joker had rust, had one door handle. It was buried in 2 feet of snow at the time. My wife said, you gonna buy that? I said, yeah. I said, if it can plow itself out the snow, I'm buying it. I drove that car for a year with no car payment. People talked about me, everything. But I never wanted to feel like somebody had me over a barrel over a paycheck. You know what I mean? So, but again, when I was chasing the money, I was out there, I got to get this money. But then I was like, hold on, I don't feel good doing this. You know what I mean? Now I was like, I got to pay for this, I got to pay for that, and I can't take off when I want to take off. I ain't like that, you know? So when I started the business and everything, I was like, hey, I need to get this money, but I also wanted to maintain my integrity without going out there and chasing it, right? Well, back in 2020 or something like that, my wife and I, we were sitting there watching something with Kevin Hart, and just, I'm trying to make this a short story, but Kevin Hart had heard Dave Chappelle was going to be in the same city he was going to be in or whatever doing the show. He was like, Dave, you're going to cannibalize my show. You know what I mean? What's up? And Dave Chappelle was like, hey, don't worry about it. I'll go on later. Just come, when you come over to my show after your show, that's when I go on. I was like, how Dave Chappelle doing this? You know what I mean? Or whatever. Looked at my wife. I said, that's what I want to. I want to be the Dave Chappelle whatever I do. And she said, what are you talking about? I said, I want to do what I want to do, when I want to do it, no matter what, and I ain't got to answer nobody to do it. Not to say I'm arrogant, but people will take advantage of you if they feel that they got you, right? So that's what I do. Even though and again, we didn't say this, but my core business is government contracting or whatever. There's some contractors, I email them, I try to communicate with them before I even engage and even looking at them for a job or whatever. If they don't, like there's key things I look for. If you don't respond, or your response is like lackluster or something like that, and it goes against my values, I ain't gonna work with you. I will pass you right on up. I don't need your money that bad. There's plenty of easier money out there to make, you know. And again, because I know what I'm gonna bring to the table, but if you're gonna bring something less than what I'm gonna bring, I don't want to fool with you. You know,
that goes back into that +1.
Exactly. Exactly.
I don't think we can end it on a better note. So,
okay.
This is all about us and African Americans, black people. So we're gonna play the Black Stripes game. So
let me take my glasses off.
Okay. New Element Barbershop, they got 5.
Yeah.
Cuts
is certified.
Yeah. Homes with Love, she got 3 out of 5.
Okay.
And John Tom's Barbecue Sauce, they got 5.
All right.
So
I gotta keep representing.
So you in between 3 and 5. As long as you don't go below 3, you okay.
I think I can do that.
Okay.
All right.
We're gonna start off with a softball question. Since you are in Georgia, what was the TV show that Donald Glover produced?
ATL.
Okay. That's
ATL. Did you get that?
Yes, Atlanta.
Yeah.
I got it. That's 1 for 1. I'm gonna keep with that gentleman, Donald Glover.
Okay.
Can you give me his rapper name?
Childish Gambino.
There you go. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. 2 for 2. I'm loving that. And I want to, since you are in the construction business or whatnot, what is one stable boot that is known in the black culture that everybody loves and usually wears?
Timbo's, man. Come on now. Wu-Tang forever.
Yes. So, there we go. That's 3 for 3. That's 3 for 3. Okay. I'm loving that. And this is just, I'm a sci-fi geek, so can you tell me the name of the actor that was in the Star Wars movie that had the purple sword, the purple lightsaber?
I want to say it's the brother from Europe. Can't think of his name. The brother from Europe, right?
It's okay. I mean,
Yeah.
I just highlighting black people and black culture.
Yeah. I can't. I don't know that one.
Okay, that's all right. It's all right. That's all right. That's all right. It is Samuel L. Jackson.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
I to be honest, I didn't know he was in Star Wars.
Yep. Samuel L. Jackson. Okay. And for the last question, the colors that are mostly known in African American for the flag, can you give me those 3 colors?
Oh man, the red, the black, and
There we go. Okay, I'm feeling that. Okay. All right.
yeah.
4
yeah.
for 5.
What's-
That's good.
Hey, I got one for you. What's the name of the hip hop artist that said that?
Oh man, you threw me out of the bus on that one, man. I know the guy in the video. He had the ring in his nose.
Yeah, no worry. I can't remember his name either.
And then Sissy.
Yeah.
I remember little highlights. So you got me on. I'll take a stripe off. I'll take a stripe off for that one. I'll take a stripe off.
You all good, bro. You all good.
Before we wrap up on the interview, is there any ways you want to give people of how they can reach out to you, whether it's your email or your website or business, that way they can know how to contact you?
Yeah. And if you don't mind, I want to add one last thought too. If you
Go ahead. Yeah.
My last thought, anybody in business or want to look to be in business, once you get to a certain level, always reach back and give back and pay it forward. Because there's been a bunch of people that helped you along the way. So you got to be that conduit to help somebody else. All right. And then you can reach me on, Facebook and Instagram at Cardinal State Construction. And then my website is cardinalstateconstruction.com also, man. But this has been a truly honor, been fun. And thank you, Mike, for putting this platform out.
Thank you. I want to give a toast, if you don't mind. Toast
Cheers.
to you. Cheers. Okay. Well, that's a wrap for the episode of Pint of You. I want to thank Kerry Adams and Cardinal State Construction. If you like the show, I'd like you to subscribe and share with your family, friends, and community. Let's continue to support Black-owned businesses and celebrate our culture one pint at a time. Stay tuned for the next episode. Until then, keep building, keep creating, and keep thriving. Thank you.
Thank you.